Good evening and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Tuesday night VRG Virtual Racer League, coming at you tonight from Thompson Speedway. Roundy rounds tonight. We're turning left all night long, folks. We're going to have 30 minutes of practice here, 15 minutes of qualifying, group qualifying at that, and then we're going to get a 30-minute feature race here at Thompson as we all figure out how to turn this Ford GT left at speed and try to keep it clean. Suspect there's going to be some rubbing while we're racing this evening. This is Ian Wisbon with the VRG Virtual Racer League. We thank you for joining us out on Facebook and YouTube. Hit the like, hit the subscribe, hit that little bell on YouTube. Find out when we go live. Be back with you here in just a little bit. Thanks for joining us. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are here tonight at Thompson Speedway Motorsports Park. Those of you who are familiar with the VRG calendar know that we run a race up there a little earlier in the year. We actually run a road course configuration there. Of course, iRacing doesn't have that road course configuration, so tonight we're on the oval in the Ford GT. So probably quite similar to the late model modifieds we were watching there just at the beginning of the stream here this evening. Quite a bit more horsepower I'd expect in the Ford GT, but either way, we're going to turn left a whole lot tonight. I suspect if you're turning right, you're not doing it right. Now we're going to do 30 minutes of practice here from 8 to 8:30. Then we're going to have 15 minutes of group qualifying, followed by a 30-minute feature race from 8:45 to 9:15. I should be having somebody join me up here in the booth tonight, so I'm not all by my lonesome. We certainly appreciate you for joining us on YouTube and Facebook. If you're on YouTube, hit the subscribe button, hit that little bell, turn on notifications, find out when we go live. Generally, we do this every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Next week, we're headed to Lime Rock Park, but tonight we're at beautiful Thompson Speedway. Looks like a beautiful day. Sun's up, it's shining. The gentleman's got his hands in the air like you just don't care. So we'll stick with it here. We've got, how many fell in? About 11 and a half minutes into this 30-minute practice session. Everybody's going to be scrubbing in some tires here, seeing how they're doing. Looks like we got 6 competitors who have been out on the track thus far. We've got a couple more that are going to join us. They have until qualifying starts to get in. This is Ian Wisbon with the VRG Virtual Racer League tonight at Thompson Speedway in the Ford GT for the Thompson Oval Historics. Thanks for joining us, folks. Back with you in just a little bit.
learn the liveries for these cars. Everybody's changed.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is Ian Wisman, and this evening in the booth, we have the pleasure of having with us Mac McCormick. Mac, thanks for joining me up here in the booth tonight. It's always a good time when I have somebody else to ride along for these things. How you doing this evening?
My pleasure. Always fun. Always fun to spectate on the VRL. VRL. Always a lot of action, and I understand there's going to be a lot of action on this track.
That's what I've
said.
Yeah, reading the email chat, and as we can see there, I think that's Jeff Underwood doing a bit of dirt tracking there across the infield. Yeah, I was right. It does seem like we're going to be doing a lot of turning left. Seems like if we're going to be doing any turning right, we're not doing it right. So curious to see how we all put it together. Now, right now we're following along with Wiley Coxmak, and it seems like Wiley might have this track down, so I think he's one to watch for this evening.
All right. Great livery on Wiley's car there.
You could certainly pick it out in the crowd. Now, obviously, when we go here, Mac, during the real-world racing season, we have a road course to race. And now, I've never been to Thompson, but I understand you have been. Why don't you tell us a bit about what Thompson looks like in the road course configuration?
Well, obviously, we're only using a portion of this track that we see on the oval part. We use I guess, consider the north turns. I guess that would be 3 and 4. But we're going counter race, so we're going clockwise around the track, and then we come from onto the oval, and then off of the oval, and back onto the road course, which goes, off in a different direction. Can't really see it here on what they show us.
Let's see, if we jump up to the Treacle Insurance blimp, and once again, we like to thank Darren Treacle Insurance for sponsoring the blimp coverage this evening. Darren himself just getting home from the SCCA National Championship run-ups at Indianapolis. Not sure that we'll see him tonight, but we do thank Treacle Insurance for sponsoring. So, nice overhead view here, Max, so we can kind of get a bit of a lay of the land here, here at the Oval at Thompson.
Yeah, there's start-finish. So you see those arrows we just went by there on, I guess it's turn 1, a bunch of arrows going in different directions. That's the entry onto the oval from the road course. And we're going to see it coming up. It's right there's just start finish, and right where those arrows are, that's where the road course comes on.
Okay.
And of course you're going the other way around, and you come off over there. So you use this part of the track right here that we're seeing now is the curve, the turns that we use on the road course.
I see.
In the other direction.
And similar to another typically, tri-oval at Pocono that has, is Pocono entirely within the confines of the race course? That one does not go outside, does it?
Yep, no, that's an infield road course. So Pocono is so huge that you can run several different configurations on the infield.
And then, remind me, we did run... Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, this is a small track. You could never run.
Okay. And was it New Hampshire was the other track where you ran a bit of the circular or oval course, and then we went outside? I feel like I recall another track similar setup at Thompson.
No, that's true. That's New Hampshire. Depending on what configuration you used, you could run a portion, and there was an infield set of S's up by turn 1, 2 at New Hampshire, and then turn 3 right in the middle took you up a hill, like through an opening in the wall, and then through another series of turns, and then back down again, and back onto the oval course. So that was part inside and part outside.
Let's see.
Very unique.
Well, right now we're riding along with Jim Graziano. He's going to give us a tour of this course, and pulled up the dashboard there so we can see just how quick he's managing to get around this oval in the Ford GT. Now we're coming out of turn, 4 here, cross and start finish. Going to be a quick tour, folks. This is turn 1, that's a left-hander. Through turn 2. On the back straight, punch it. Now it'll be curious to see how everybody enters here into turn 3 and then 4 back onto the front straight. to maximize getting that power down and getting a run on somebody.
So it's really interesting to see that he does get up into fourth gear on the straight sections, but not for very long. So just basically using 2 gears, third and fourth.
And Jim currently
up to 102 miles an hour though.
It's a healthy run there. It looks like we're getting up to about 120 at the end of that front straight. Now Jim Graziano currently in second in here in practice, the 19.398. Jeff Underwood on top at the 19.286. So we'll see. I think everybody else is currently in the pit lane doing a bit of body repair. We got both Bob Lang and Kurt Uzbey. Kurt Uzbey running out of KTR. KTR a little different for them, running a roundy round in the Ford GT, doing some panel beating, I suspect.
Well, obviously these Ford GT cars were never designed. Whoops. For this type of circuit.
No, but it's.
I think they have 6 speeds, right? And we're just using 3 and 4.
And it's a fixed setup too, so it's not like you can get in there and mess around with your gear ratios either. So, race chairman here, Jim Carramanis. We'll see how he's doing this evening. A bit of a fun one, if you will, on the calendar. And giving everybody a chance to get out there and doing a little rubbing while they're racing.
See, Jim has changed his livery to mostly blue with some red.
He has, and then the sister car to the ELB Racer Walsh Company sponsored Fords there, almost identical. Aside from the numbers there, I don't know if that's intentional. I guess we should keep an eye on one or the other, perhaps getting into trouble and blaming the other one since we can't tell them apart.
Very hard to tell them apart except for the number. They should put something on it that makes them a little different from a distance, you know.
So we're about 25 minutes through this 30-minute practice session here. Then we'll get into qualifying here now. It's going to be group qualifying. Everybody's going to be out there at the same time. That should be interesting and a bit of a preview for the race. So we got about 5 minutes left here. Definitely avoiding somebody there.
I think that looked like his teammate.
Let's pull up the track map here so we can see where everybody's at. Who have we not jumped on? Let's pick up Dave Curtis here.
Okay.
Dave Curtis looks to be running a Cobra Kai livery here this evening. A fan of the Karate Kid, it seems.
Awesome. Now he put on his circle track number on the roof, like a good old boy.
There you go. We'll jump up there to the Treacle Insurance blimp, get a good shot of that one. Running number 43 there for the King.
So I know in the discussion this week, and people were talking about what's the line to use. I hadn't had a chance to review Steve Focacci's fast lap, but it looks like you kind of go for a late apex, a dive down in from above, and then out again.
We're riding along with Steve right now. Yep,
with the chrome yellow wheels there.
I expect Steve is going to be quick this evening. He usually figures it out, and perhaps that's because he takes the time to put together a fast lap video and doesn't want to embarrass himself, so make sure it's actually pretty quick. But generally it seems this comes quite naturally to Steve. And we certainly do appreciate all his hard work in putting together these videos so we know where we're going. And it may look deceptively easy with it just being an oval and turning left, but I'll tell you what, Mac, I have done a couple of oval races in cars intended for oval, as well as some of the road cars that we're making run oval, and it is a challenging ordeal if you're not familiar with it.
It really is. Yep, it looks simple, but it's not simple. It's subtle, and it's all about finesse and car control.
Absolutely. Couple of times I've done a few AI or simulated NASCAR races with a healthy field of 40 cars or something, and you're running 3 wide around Charlotte Motor Speedway in a nice big pack, and yeah, car control to that point, because these cars don't really have a whole lot of aerodynamic grip necessarily, particularly once you get in the pack and everything starts bumping around and bouncing. So it's certainly challenging. It's a heck of a lot of fun, though, I'll tell you. I didn't think I'd like it as much as I did, but really the circle track stuff is a blast.
I kind of enjoyed that legacy race we had at Indy last season, or maybe the season before, in the Ford, NASCAR Ford. That was kind of fun, especially at Indy. What a track.
Oh, for sure. Now, we can touch on this in just a little bit because we'll have some time during qualifying and probably the race. But you did just return from the runoffs at Indianapolis, did you not?
I did.
Well,
I did. It was awesome. Had unbelievable weather. Unbelievable weather. We just had some rain on the last day, which was too bad for all those guys that that had their race on Sunday. There was a little bit of rain on Saturday too, but mostly on Sunday. But the guy I was crewing for, he was done on Friday, so he didn't have to deal with that. I'm impressed by how much Stefan's car looks like his Sonnet. Same color and a very, very similar shape, really, when you look at it.
He does a pretty good job,
doesn't it?
Making most every car. Let's see if we can get let's get a rear chase on him. It does look quite like his real world race car. He takes the time to do it, but the Ford does actually kind of look a lot like the Sonnet.
It does, especially from the rear quarter view.
That's kind of funny.
Right there.
Yep.
Right there. Doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
That is funny.
Now, I know Stefan wasn't sure he was going to make tonight's race. I think he's had some wrist issues, which is a bit coincidental because I've got the same. But he is here this evening and probably just getting his feet wet here for the Oval at Thompson. But as with anything Stefan does, I'm sure he'll very quickly pick it up and find some pace here.
Yeah, Stefan has great car control. That's what it's all about here.
So, real quick, we're going to pull up the points as it currently stands. Let me see. Working on my graphics here. Very shortly here, we're going to kick over to qualifying. So we're looking here. Steve definitely avoids Stefan there after a bit of a spin. Currently got Jeff Underwood out on top with 94 points. Second place is Wiley Cox with 70, and Dave Curtis, third place with 68 points. I'm sure that'll get shaken up a little bit tonight, as this will present quite the challenge here at Thompson. But otherwise, pretty close series. Now we're going to kick over to qualifying, so pardon the hiccup there as Barney's down there at start-finish waving that checkered flag. We should be able to pick up everybody as they start to roll out here for quali. Stefan's first out of the gate here.
Yeah, get a clear track. I think it's the black rocker panel that makes it look so much like a Sonnet.
Yeah. I'm sure it's occurred to him.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure it has.
I'm going to have to get a screenshot of that, though, so we can put it up next to his name. Do I have... not at this moment in time. All right, folks, so here's how it's going to work. We're going to have 15 minutes of qualifying. Everybody's out in the same session here, the way we're running things this season, whereas prior seasons we would have had individual qualifying. We could jump around in between each person's individual qualifying session. 15 minutes to set the fastest lap, and that'll set the grid for our 30-minute feature race here, Thompson Speedway. This is Ian Wisman with the VRG VRL. And joining me up here in the booth is Mac McCormick. And again, Mac, great to have you with us. Did you do any flagging this weekend at Indianapolis, or were you just wrenching and getting Gatorades for your team? And who were you running with this weekend?
Well, I was running with Andy Nelson, who's actually a vintage mini racer from Canada, which is how I know him. but has been campaigning for the last year a B-Spec Mini, and it was a tough year for him with COVID and with the border being closed with Canada. So he only got to do one race in the States in the B-Spec, and in order to qualify, he had to buy 2 entries basically that he never raced in order to qualify for the runoff. So it was a tough year, but he did well. He he'd never been to Indy, like I'm sure many of the drivers there, and it takes a while to learn the track and get up to speed, and he was able to take like 2 seconds off each day and worked his way up to I think he qualified 14th out of something like 60 cars.
Oh, wow.
So he was really happy with that. And unfortunately, on lap 1, turn 1 during his race, he was hit from behind, spun out, and lost about 9 or 10 spots, but did carve his way back up to about P18. So he was happy overall, and it's just an amazing thing to race at Indianapolis. The track is unbelievable, just unbelievable.
Certainly hallowed grounds.
Yeah, the whole scene is just huge.
Yeah,
it's the biggest thing you've ever seen. It's just amazing.
So you get there. You say Andy's race was on Friday. What day of the week do you get there to practice? And when does your week start?
He did a test day. I think he got there on Tuesday.
Okay.
And maybe even Monday. We got there late Tuesday. And then there was qualifying on Wednesday and Thursday. Excuse me. But then, since he was done and went home, I did flag on Sunday in the rain. And it was fun.
Well, we certainly thank you for getting out there and working, because as everybody knows, we can't go racing if you're not working. So certainly, Mac, myself, and every other racer appreciates you being out there in your whites, waving the flags for us.
Well, Lee was the real workhorse there, because she flagged every day that we were there. So
send a very large round of applause to Lee when you next see her.
I will.
But very cool. I've not been back to Indy since Formula One stopped racing there. Amazing track, and of course we have the benefit of being able to race it in iRacing. And I'm curious, Mac, because they talked about it on the coverages I was watching on SCCA.com. They don't go to that track, but when the runoffs are there, did you happen to hear anybody practicing in iRacing just to kind of get some kind of a feel for the track? And if so, did they find that it helped or it hurt?
Yeah, absolutely. And Andy, I did it on iRacing. And it really helps you learn the track and where it's going and all that kind of stuff. And I think he felt it was beneficial, but it's obviously no substitute for actually being in the car and feeling the grip,
Right, exactly.
And I don't think there is a B-Spec in iRacing that you can practice it.
Right.
So
we are at a bit of a disadvantage, us being mini racers, myself a vintage mini racer, and so we're a little hard pressed to find that front wheel drive that we know and love so much.
Yeah, I guess the Jetta would be the closest thing.
So we're just over 5 minutes, coming up on 6 minutes into our 15-minute qualifying session here. Jeff Underwood's currently out on top, and as noted earlier in our discussion, Steve Focacci, who puts together every week a fast lap for everybody to take crib notes from, is currently in second. Just a couple of hundredths separating those two, and then a little bit further back, Dave Curtis, Stefan Vappa, and Wiley Cox on rounding out the top 5 for qualifying here. You can hear there in the distance a couple of bumps and bruises there, so the body man's going to probably afford a new boat by the end of this weekend, I'm guessing.
Well, it seems to be they're settling down. I don't see quite as many off-course excursions as we saw in the practice session. So,
of course, I jump into Focacci's cockpit there, and he's all elbows. So it's a bit of the cameraman's curse of being the broadcaster here, which Unfortunately, I seem to have a knack for putting the camera on folks just as they're having a bit of an event, so it's not intentional, folks, but you know, it might be the fates.
Jim.
Jim Carramanis, currently our 10th place qualifier here.
Yeah, and with a fixed setup, you don't really have the opportunity to tune the suspension or anything, so you just kind of drive it like it is, figure it out, which is part of the fun of all this.
It is. I had not had the opportunity to jump in the sim and actually drive this yet, and as soon as, well, this weekend rolls around, I'm going to put a couple of laps in because this does look like a bit of a hoot.
But just going from the Lotus 79 to this car, it's a huge difference. The Lotus 79 had unbelievable downforce. You could just go into a turn just incredibly fast. You can't quite do that with this car, even though it's a very fast car. It just doesn't have the kind of grip that Lotus had. So you have to learn to drive it a little differently.
It is a bit of a change. Well, certainly some rather large changes depending upon which cars we jump to. And you know, Jim Carramanis picks the cars and the seasons, and certainly I think he does occasionally to kind of balance things out a little bit and catch the top of the pack off their out of their comfort zone. We see Jeff Underwood here, who's a relative newcomer to the VRG VRL. I think he joined us in the last season or two and has been a regular performer here, generally taking it to Stefan and Steve in the last couple of races here. We're picking up with Dave Curtis, and now Dave Curtis and Jim Graziano, who, jumping back to Jim here in the Castrol, but Dave and Jim are doing some regular endurance yeoman's work in iRacing, keeping an eye on what they're up to. They're usually running 3 and 6 hour endurance events, so certainly making most of their free time and having a good time doing it, from what I gather.
Yep, and they're both getting better and better all the time with all that seat time they're putting in.
It's not to say that I'm looking forward to snow in a northeastern winter, as you know, it's not great here in Pittsburgh, but I'm sure it's quite a different story up where you're located, Mac. But I am looking forward to being able to kind of cuddle up and do a 12-hour race at Sebring. And just drive for hours on end, which is the really nice part about this whole iRacing thing is when the weather gets nasty, we can still go racing and have a good time of it.
Yep, no doubt about it. It was really great during the pandemic, keeping us all in touch with each other and getting together twice every week. It was fabulous.
We pick up.
So to go back to the runoffs, you know, Darren Treacle competed at the runoffs in STU, and he did very well.
I didn't catch his qualifying. I did manage to get up and catch his race. I had a lovely breakfast and sat and watched Darren. I believe he qualified. Was he P11?
Yeah, I think it was 11. And he drove very well. I think he finished P6 maybe, or P8. I can't remember. But yeah, he did very well, higher than he qualified, and by far he had the best sounding car on the track.
I was listening for it because they did have one camera on the right up against trackside coming out of the last turn onto the front straightaway, so you actually got a chance to hear everything. And his did have a nice song to it. And
yeah, the exhaust, he had some kind of special exhaust where the two pipes came out the side of the car on the right side of the car, which faced the infield at Indy, and oh boy, did it sound good! Just awesome.
And I watched the race, and I think they had a rather unfortunate engine. One of the top qualifiers' engine let go with the drop of the green flag, which unfortunately oiled the track, and I think caused a bit of mayhem there. And then obviously you got to kind of fight back from a start there off the yellow flag. So Darren was hampered a bit, but he did have an excellent drive. They actually called him out there during the drive. commentators picked up on Darren out there, and I think he's in a new BMW E46, I believe. New to him.
Yeah. It's new to him. It's a former World Challenge car, so it's beautifully prepared.
Well, congratulations there to Darren for competing, and also to your buddy Andy Nelson there. And of course, if Andy gets bored, he could always come race with us in the VRL over those winter months. It'd be good to have some friends from north of the border.
I have invited him. He's going to think about it. He doesn't have great connectivity. He's kind of out in the boondocks like I am. But I will mention it again.
Well, living in the city
right now he is getting psyched up to go out to Laguna for it's a Mini versus Mustang challenge. Right. So there's going to be a bunch of Minis and a bunch of Mustangs on the track together. So.
Well, I look forward to seeing video of that one, because everybody loves to share. It was at Nick Swift racing against the Ford Falcon at Goodwood. That David and Goliath kind of situation there. Well,
Andy has invited Nick to come out and drive his car out there, so we'll see what happens if Nick can make it.
Well, I just started looking into the Can-Am Mini Challenge, and you and I both being mini racers, curious to see where it's going to be. And I guess in 2022, I think they're headed to Road Atlanta, perhaps.
Yep, Road Atlanta.
Okay. Well, certainly I would like to see that race come up to the Northeast. Not to say I can't travel for it, but might have to talk to Andy and see if we can, put in a couple of votes for bringing it somewhere where we're generally racing at. Watkins Glen, Summit Point, even Pit Race.
Yep.
And hey, if we can get Nick Swift to come over, he can have my car. I don't know that I'll get it back I'll get it back in one piece, but it's going to need a new motor once he's done with it, I think.
Right.
All right, so we're coming into the closing minutes of qualifying here at Thompson Speedway at the Ford GT. We got, it's about 14 minutes into this. Currently out on top, Steve Focacci, as expected. He's always quick. Second to him, Jeff Underwood, Dave Curtis in third. Stefan Vapp is in fourth, and Jim Graziano rounding out that top five. So everybody's close here.
Yep.
Assuming we can start the race clean, this should be some fun nose-to-tail roundy rounds going on here.
Yeah. Everybody's within, what, maybe 0.8 of a second.
Now, I will be curious. I don't know what kind of a draft you might get here, but I'd imagine there's got to be something. And then I guess it's just ride the guy in front of you around the corner onto the next straight. So this should be an interesting race for us here.
Yep. Draft's got to figure into it here.
"15 minutes is going to be up here, and once that happens and timing and scoring gets us the grid for this evening, we'll pull that up and we'll run through it and let you know who's going to be starting the race off here this evening." Barney's waving that checkered flag. Fans are going to be running a concession stand. You get a cold beer and a plate of nachos to come back for 30 minutes of racing here at Thompson Speedway with the VRG Virtual Racer League. Tonight in the Ford GT, it looks like Steve Focacci is going to be our pole setter. We'll wait for timing and scoring to confirm that one for us. And as expected, Steve Focacci's out on top, qualifying that pole position. Second place, Jeff Underwood. Third place, Dave Curtis. Fourth place, Stefan Vappa. Fifth place, Jim Graziano, rounding out the top five. Then we got Wiley Cox in sixth, Carlos Bonds in seventh, Bob Lang in eighth, Clark Orstrom ninth, Jim Carramanis in 10th. Kurt Uzbay is going to be in 11th, Ralph Padgington in 12th. That'll do it for our competitors this evening here at Thompson Speedway. We should get rolling here in just a little bit. We're going to have a paced lap here to start the race. Rolling start, I do believe, and it should be a full pace lap.
Kind of hard to do a pace lap, half a pace lap on this little track, isn't it?
That it is. All right, there we go. Proper graphics.
There we go.
We'd like to thank Office Service Company for sponsoring the VRG VRL. Matthew Barber and the Office Service Company for all your office needs. We're rolling off here for the pace lap. This will be a quick one here, folks.
Obviously, the key here is to not ball it all up in turn one.
And watch that accordion effect there on the pace lap. Real easy to drive into the rear end of the guy in front of you. Pace car should pull off here rather abruptly.
I think I got to take another lap. Let everybody get a chance to get their tires warmed up a bit. Being such a short course, I think I'll probably come in this time.
Pace car is in. We expect to go green. Next time around here, Bonnie's going to throw the green flag. We got Steve Focacci out in front, Jeff Underwood to his outside, Dave Curtis and Stefan Vappa. Green flag is out, and we are racing, folks, here at Thompson Speedway with the VRG VRL. Thompson Oval Historics. Looks like Steve Focacci is going to lead it into one just behind Jeff Underwood and Dave Curtis. Tossing around that second position there. Mostly 2x2 through the rest of the grid, but everybody's gotten away clean, a little gingerly approaching this one as they get some heat into the tires and don't spin it off. That looks like Clark Gorsham there to the inside doing a bit of dirt track racing. Let's see if he collects himself. He's back out on course. Steve Focacci leading around through the completion of our first race lap here, pulling up our timing and scoring tower.
There we go. That's good. I think everybody's doing really well. I think everybody just kept it under control and stayed in the race. So now just settle in and turn those laps. Yeah, like any real racing, it's all about not making mistakes.
It's funny, I find I have just as much anxiety about the start of a race in iRacing as I do in the real world.
Exactly.
Foot's bouncing on the pedal, brakes are a little because your foot's a little excited. I was a little surprised at that. I know when we were practicing and eventually took part in the 12 hours at Sebring, and I got into the car for the first time, I was amazed. I don't think I had shaken that much since the day of my wedding.
Yeah. Yeah, it's stressful. There's no doubt about it. Your heart rate goes up, and just all of those emotions that you get in real racing. Everything but the G-loads. You know, I think having raced in reality, you bring a different feeling to it if you've never really raced before. You know, we're probably conditioned to feel that way at the start of the race.
I think that makes sense. You know, I'm a member of a number of communities around the sim racing sport, and you know, you can tell those who race in the real world and those who only race in the sim. And that's not to say that there aren't that those who have only raced in the sim don't take it seriously necessarily, but you can just tell there's a bit more of a learned behavior and response to it all, and you know, more gentlemanly conduct, if you will.
Yeah, sort of a respect for what could really happen in the real world as opposed to the sim world.
Picking up here, Wiley Cox, currently running in 6th place. Let's see if
Wiley
we can
tapped the wall there, but he kept it under control.
Most everybody stayed where they qualified. Looks like Carramanis and Uzbey moving up a bit there. Clark Gorstrom, we saw he got a little agricultural there at the start, so he dropped back 2 positions. Everybody else is right where they started.
I think it's going to be tough to pass here. And no, the field's kind of spreading out a bit. I don't see anybody, you know, right up the draft of the car in front of them. We see lots of different lines, though, through the turns, don't we?
That we do. We're currently on board with Wiley. Now, he's got Jim Graziano just to the outside there in his Castro liveried Ford GT. We'll ride around here with Wiley for a couple of laps. We can see how he does it.
Got a toe there. Try an inside pass. I think he's got him. Yep.
Did look to run up a little high there. He might have caught the wall again.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Ooh.
Looked like Kurt. I think it was Kurt facing counter race there, but he managed to jump out of there before he caused a bigger collision.
Yep, he hit the eject button. Wiley's moving up. Good time.
I'll jump back with him. We'll pick up with Dave Curtis here. He's currently riding P3. Jeff Underwood just ahead of him.
It's like Jeff may be pulling away from him a bit. Looks like they may be lapping now, too. Lapping the back markers. Now it could get really interesting.
That it could. Let's see if we can find a good camera angle to watch all this take place. Small track here, so, you know, not most of the camera angles can pick up everything.
What it's a half mile over, isn't it?
I usually look these things up. Hang on, we can bring up the race info here and we can take a look. Track length, 0.53 miles.
Yep, half mile.
78 degrees, 55% humidity, partly cloudy. All in all, a pretty nice day there at Thompson. Track temperature looks to be 105 degrees. Pick up our race leader here. Let's jump on board with Steve as he works his way through a bit of traffic here at Thompson. That's Kurt Uzbey just ahead, and I believe that's Ralph Padgington. That's VRL chairman Jim Carramanis just ahead there. Steve getting
took the low line.
a little bit of a tap there for Steve. He got up high, got into the marbles, and got a little loose.
Yeah, I think he had to avoid Jim there. He's got to run on Kurt. Not easy to pass.
Not at all. Now, of course, in the cars, the drivers have some awareness as to what their tire conditions are, but I suspect the right front's probably taking a bit of a beating here this evening, and we're not doing pit stops, at least I don't believe we are. So be curious to see what everybody's tire conditions are like as this race goes on. Now, we're running for 30 minutes here. This is a timed race as opposed for laps.
Yeah, no scheduled pit stop, but there may still be pit stops.
Carlos Bonds in his Mach 5 liveried Ford GT.
Racer 5. Looks like that Racer 5 beer, doesn't it?
Does. I do see there is some Hello Kitty on the quarter panels there in the rear. Carlos known for generally running the Hello Kitty liveries. Currently running in P7 there for Carlos. Most everywhere else in the field's got a 1 to 2 second gap on things. Let's jump up to Stefan Vapis, see how he's doing.
It's kind of interesting to watch the brake lights and see how different drivers are using the brakes.
It's one of the things I'd like to eventually incorporate into the broadcast is putting some webcams out there on a few of our drivers and our drivers' feet, just so you can kind of see what the footwork looks like when we're racing these cars.
Yeah.
So as it stands, about 10 minutes into this race here, top 4 as they qualified, though Wiley Cox moving up into the top 5 there, getting past Jim Graziano.
Leaf still turning fastest laps. 19.25. You know, that black patch that he just drove through there. I know this one here, right there. I don't know what it's like going this direction, but I can tell you going the other way, there's a big bump right there. But we don't, you know, when we use the infield course, we don't really use the full oval. In fact, this may, is this a legacy track?
I believe that it may be.
Yeah, because I mean, we actually transitioned down onto the infield. I think there's a paved part of the infield that doesn't show up on this track. In this version of the track that we actually use, and that transition is quite abrupt. It would be nice to use the banking, because with 10-inch wheels, boy, it really kind of upsets things.
That it does. Those bumps seem a heck of a lot larger in a Mini than than some of the other things, which are more able to absorb things.
Yeah. That's one thing that Andy said about the B-Spec Mini. I mean, it's got 15-inch wheel rims and, you know, and lots of suspension travel. And he said you can go over all the curbs, no problem.
Yeah, the Mini, vintage Mini is a bit like a roller skate in that regard. Not a whole lot of anything to absorb things.
Yeah, it's sort of like a go-kart.
I did, I at one point in my life owned a Hydrolastic Cooper S, and that was a bit of a weird experience. Just in how it would transfer the suspension front to rear if you happen to kind of get into some washboard stuff. Certainly was much more compliant and plush. The handling was a bit ruined. I mean, it still handled fantastic because it was pretty well planted, but it did have a lot more roll.
Yep. That suspension is really nice in the MG 1100, which has a little bit longer wheelbase too. Made for a very, very nice ride for a street car.
So it's currently October 5th. Now, most of the VRG racers are getting ready to head up to Watkins Glen for a real-world race for our Bog at the Glen, though I don't know that we're calling it the Bog at the Glen this year. But, Mac, will you be headed to Watkins Glen to turn a couple of laps?
I will be at Watkins Glen, but I won't be turning any laps because I broke my crank at Lime Rock.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Yeah. So I'm trying to get a new crank, but I know I won't have it in time for that.
And I also, well, I launched my motor at Shenley Park, so I'm in the process of starting a new build there. We're gonna go under 1 liter Mac. We're gonna put a screaming 998 into my car and
Cool.
make that just under 1 liter. We'll build another Mini to take to the big tracks, but I'm looking forward to having a little fun with an under 1 liter Screamer.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I didn't break a crank. I wound up, oddly, one of the retaining bolts for my windage tray decided to part ways with its mounting location, and then took a whole bunch of other stuff with it. And I bent 7 of 8 valves when the timing chain snapped, so...
Oh!
Yeah, it was pretty thorough.
Well, remarkably, my crank broke right inside one of the connecting rod journals, and the connecting rod acted as a clamp and held it together, and I was able to drive in.
Oh, hey, there you go.
Only damage was to that one bearing.
You gotta play the lottery when things like that happen.
Yeah, very lucky in that regard. Just gotta get a new crank. So let's see, time remaining is
We're
let's see,
about at the halfway
6
point.
minutes?
We got 30 minutes in this race, so we
30
still have...
minutes. 30.
Yep.
Oh yeah, almost coming up on halfway, right? I imagine you're getting dizzy out there going round and round.
For sure. I mean, you know, sometimes you get into you think about a 500-mile, you know, NASCAR race, and they're turning left for 500 miles. You got to wonder if the call of the void or the call of the right-hand turn starts talking to you. Around mile 400.
At least it's not a half-mile track, though.
It's true.
It's sort of like a blender, you know.
It's true. It's probably half the reason why they enjoy stopping in the pits, because at least then they got to turn right at least once to get back out of the pit. Now, due to some traffic here, Steve Focacci is going to have Jeff Underwood right up on his bumper. Let's jump up into the cockpit here with Jeff. And we have a gaggle of Fords.
Yeah,
and Steve...
Oh, I think that was an incident there.
That was. Looks like Kurt managed to... Steve get it back under power. Unfortunate.
Oh, he's got some damage, some serious damage. Coming in the pits. Amazing he can still drive it like that, isn't it?
That's for sure.
Well, he should get it one quick repair, right?
Yep. We got quick repairs turned on. So for folks that aren't familiar, quick repair, pull into the pits, hit the button, boom, car's fixed, back out into the races. Now that's going to take Steve quite a ways down the pole, timing and scoring tower here, but Steve's been quick and he's got time. I could see him fighting his way back up. So let's pick up with our new race leader. Steve getting out just in front of Dave Curtis, managed to stay on the lead lap. Kudos to Steve's pit crew down there in pit lane.
Yep.
Managed to probably change out 4 tires, bang out a fender, and put a whole left front end on that car in under 1 lap here. Less than 20 seconds, so kudos to that team. Now, let's see how Steve can do if he can manage to make some hay here, get ahead of Dave Curtis, get back around. But that has really shaken things up for the lead here. We've got Dave Curtis is out on top. Now up to second place, Stefan Vappa.
Wiley up to third.
Pick up the changes there in timing and scoring. So Stefan's up 2 places. Wiley's up 3 into third place. Wiley also benefiting from some misfortune by those ahead of him in last week's race.
Steve is turning fastest laps.
Well, and he would be on fresher tires than everybody else out there, so he's going to be able to make that car stick better than anybody else right now.
Do you get new tires with a quick repair, or they just fix
Well,
the damage?
I'm assuming that you do. But I don't know that to be absolutely true.
Yeah, I don't know either.
We'll have to ask Steve in the post race if he is able to join us. Picking up here with Ralph Padgington now. I thought he was close to his partner in crime there, Jim Carramanis, but Ralph must have had a bit of an incident there. Jim having a bit of a lock up there, entering the turn.
Oh, nice pass. Steve's up to 5th.
Just a recap for everybody watching on YouTube and Facebook. Steve Focacci, our pole position qualifier here, leading the race up until a bit of a mishap there with some lap traffic. Took him and second place Jeff Underwood out of contention there. Steve into the pits. Toot sweet, able to get the car fixed up. Now he came back out on the lead lap and is making his way back up through the pack. We'll jump down here to Jeff Underwood and see how he's doing. Now Jeff also pretty quick, not setting the same lap time Steve Focacci is, but we can see Steve's now all the way up to 4th place and making his way back around. We got about 10 minutes remaining in this 30-minute race session at Thompson Speedway, so there is time and ability here to do this. We'll see if these guys can get back out on top.
Jeff's still doing pretty well. He's within 100th of Steve's lap time, so. Steve's up to 4th now. Look how smooth Jeff is. Very smooth wheel motion there. You just can't put big inputs in. Expect to keep the balance and grip. It's interesting how he feels the grip on the corner exit as he's coming back on the power.
It's a lot of fun to watch, but as I'm sitting here watching, I'm thinking of my own nervousness generally, considering braking and turning left on the oval courses. I always have such a hard time getting it lined up the right way. But the benefit, it's particularly short track, is you get to do it so much. Eventually, you just kind of figure it out. But
yeah,
to your point, I am myself a little abrupt on my steering inputs, and that makes for a difficult time. And it does go away very quickly if you get up onto the marbles or too low on the skirt there.
Yep. Yeah, it's all about being smooth. Here, let's go on board with Steve and see what his technique looks like. Very smooth. And maybe fewer corrections than Jeff.
And I know Steve does race in VR, in a virtual reality headset, and which you do as well, Mac, correct?
Yeah. Yes.
And I know I have one. I'm still working on getting over the motion sickness from it, but when I do switch from racing on a monitor versus the VR, you really do get a much better sense of where you are on the track surface and where you're turning in, and we can see the banking here on the course, but it's much more apparent when in the VR headset, which I think greatly assists in in your driving style.
Yeah, I think it does. I mean, the biggest thing I noticed switching from the monitor to the VR was that all of a sudden the track is like the full width, just like it would be if you were, in the car on the track. I mean, now it looks 40 foot wide instead of 10 feet wide.
Oh, for sure.
So you can really plan where you're going to put the car a lot more accurately.
Well, I'd been racing a lot at Watkins Glen on the monitor, and then I strapped on the VR, and it immediately became apparent how much room you have in turn one. To your point, it looks so tiny on the monitor, and then you put on the VR and you see that you actually have acres of track with which to operate with.
Yep, and it's easier to get down to the apex too. Use the whole track. Oh, nice pass.
We're under 5 minutes here. It's a 30-minute race at Thompson Speedway. We're currently riding along with Steve Focacci, riding in 4th place. Now, he was our pole sitter and race leader for quite some time until an unfortunate incident. He's fighting his way back up. He's making some time. Not sure if 5 minutes is going to be quite enough, but I expect he might be able to make it up for that last place on the podium, but we shall see. Jump up with our current race leader, Dave Curtis.
Yep. Dave's keeping it all under control. Very nice.
Wiley Cox was able to jump up to 2nd place there. Looks like he got around Stefan. We might be able to jump back.
Yes.
Looks like Stefan might have had an off track.
Stefan's dropping back, yeah.
Uncertain if Stefan had a bit of a contact with the wall there, but Wiley did. Generally looks like Stefan might be having some issues there.
Yeah, he's like down on the apron almost.
Yeah, looks like he's gone into the pit lane, and Steve Focacci has made it up back to 3rd place as a result of some attrition there.
Yeah, he must have tapped the wall. Boy, look at him just drive around cars.
Steve's just under 3 seconds behind 2nd place Wiley Cox. with just under 2 minutes remaining in this 30-minute race here at Thompson Speedway. Wiley's looking like he's got some clean air ahead of him, so unless something happens in front, Steve's going to have to hustle to catch up to him here in these closing minutes.
6 laps remaining about, right?
Yep. But Steve is hustling. Jump in the cockpit here with Steve as he's got a couple of cars ahead of him. Follow him through to the end. Dave Curtis running largely unimpeded.
Yep.
Just ahead there, making his way around the turn is Wiley Cox. That's who Steve's chasing for second place now with about 30 seconds remaining in this race. So we should see Barney throw up the white flag here as Dave Curtis comes around here shortly. We'll ride along with Dave and see when Barney does throw that flag. And that would be the white flag up there. So currently working last lap. Dave Curtis out in front leading this race. Wiley Cox in second place and Steve Focacci in third. Jumping back to Steve Focacci on the inboard. That's Wiley just ahead. Working last lap. Doesn't look like Steve's going to have it, but we'll follow him around this last turn here. Checkered flag is out. Dave Curtis has won the race. And Steve Focacci fighting back to take an excellent third place position there. We'll pick up with our race winner here, Dave Curtis. Excellent drive here. Pick up these... Let's see. Yep. So Dave Curtis picking up 2 positions there to take the race here, qualifying third, finishing first. Wiley Cox with the hard charger tonight, coming up 4 positions to finish in second place. A little bit of post-race hijinks there as Bob Lang collects Dave Curtis.
Yep. Here we go. Payback.
Steve and Jeff taking their cars back to the pit lane so they can put it on the trailer the way they got it here.
Yep.
And we'll jump up to the Treacle Blimp as everybody plays Demolition Derby at start-finish there. Wiley putting it up into the wall there. Everybody's making sure they bend all 4 corners.
Right.
And we'll pull up our race results here. Yeah, here's some barking there in the background. That's my fur child, Arthur. He's a very excited boy. So race winners this evening. Sorry, go ahead. Race winners this evening, Dave Curtis with 50 points. Wiley Cox in second place with 40. Steve Focacci taking that third podium position, 35 points after a rather rough race there. Jim Graziano and Jeff Underwood finishing out the top 5.
Yep. Followed by Jeff Underwood, Carlos Bonds, Stefan Vapa, Bob Lang, Jim Carramanis, Clark Ostrom, Ralph Padgington, and Kurt Uspe.
Pulling up our points championship standings after tonight's race. Jeff Underwood still out on top with 124 points. Dave Curtis in second with 118, and Wiley Cox with 110 points. Jim Graziano with 96, and then Steve Focacci jumping up to P5 there with 85 points. Steve missing a race here, so he's playing catch-up and doing a pretty good job of it.
Yeah, it was a great... Even with his incident, he drove a great race to make up all those positions.
All right, folks, so Mac and I are gonna step away for a moment. We're gonna head to the broadcast booth and see if any of our racers want to join us for a post-race debrief. So sit tight, and we'll be back with you in just a few moments. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Mac McCormick and Ian Wisman with the VRG VRL. We are back with some of our competitors from tonight's thriller at Thompson Speedway for the Thompson Oval Historics. We have with us in the broadcast booth race winner. Whoop, hang on. Let me pull out my graphics again here so we can make sure that we get this right. Okay. Sorry about that, folks. Doing all the things up here. So, race winner this evening, Dave Curtis. We've got second place finisher Wiley Cox, third place finisher Steve Focacci. Also joining us, we have Jeff Underwood, who picked up P5 here this evening. VRL chairman Jim Carramanis. And let's go grab Jim Graziano just because he's oh, wait, he's in the pub. He's probably cracking a cold one. So, tonight's race, an exciting one here at Thompson. A whole lot of turning left. Steve, you might have been the only person to legitimately have to turn right as you came out of the pit lane. We'll kick it off here with Dave Curtis. Excellent drive from you here tonight, Dave. Excellent lap times. You benefited from a bit of attrition there in the middle point of the race, but give us a bit about your evening here at Thompson and how it went for you.
Yeah, thanks. I had a really good time. I just wanted to keep up with the first two guys for the first half of the race, at least. Hope that some attrition would take place. I knew traffic would play a role. I seemed to catch traffic in the wrong spots and would end up getting a little bit farther behind. I did learn in practice that actually using second gear through the middle of both ends of the corners would help to load up the right rear tire instead of burning up the right front. And I think it saved me some tire for the end of the race, and it allowed me to keep my lap times down when I had clean air.
Interesting technique.
Now, Wiley, again, excellent from you this evening, picking up a second place finish here. You also benefited from a bit of attrition there. You're the hard charger for this evening, picking up 4 positions over your qualifying. How'd your race go for you?
Well, I owe an apology to Jim Carramanis and Ralph Padgerton. I bumped them both at a couple spots where I should have been a little more careful. So first, apologies to both those gentlemen for that. It was just tire management for me. I had done a pretty long practice stint, a pretty long qualifying stint, and realized if I could save my tires, I thought I would be able to run some better times. And it seemed like I was keeping my times down to what my starting times had been toward the end of the race, which I think helped a lot. I don't know what happened with Stefan. He seemed to just kind of pull over at one point when I was behind him. So I was going to be happy for third, but second's definitely better.
Well, excellent showing from you there, Wiley. Sorry, Mac, go ahead.
I was going to say, yeah, we weren't quite sure what happened to Stefan, except that he seemed to pull down on the apron.
We'll have to touch.
I don't know whether he had it, hit the wall or something. We didn't see that either, so we don't know. Unfortunate
there. Now, jumping to Steve Focacci here. Now, pole sitter this evening, running a pretty good race there, and then you got caught up in a bit of hijinks there. I got to tell you, if you haven't bought a round of beers for your pit crew yet, you definitely should, because you managed to get down to pit lane, get in there, get your left front completely rebuilt, the car put back together and out on track, and stayed on the lead lap where everybody's turning about a 19.5-second lap. So buy a round on us for your pit crew there, Steve. How'd it go for you this evening?
If you asked me if a third place would have been good before the race, I would have been, yeah, it would have been really good. But I think I led about the first 50 laps and was thinking I could have won that. But yeah, I got too impatient in the middle of the race. I was just kind of being relaxed, not pushing too hard. But Jeff was catching me, and when we got into all the lappers, or yeah, there were a couple. I think there were 3 or 4 cars. I probably should have just waited, but I thought maybe I could get through, and I couldn't. So I hit, I think I hurt Kurt, so I want to apologize to Kurt, but I actually did a few pit stops during qualifying, and entering pit lane was kind of tough. So I knew I had to get slowed down quite a bit. So that, just being efficient entering pits, I think helped, after I made that mistake. But I mean, I pretty much tried to run qualifying laps the whole race. The pace kind of stayed consistent throughout, but just that mistake put me back.
First, you were coming into the pit lane on only 3 wheels.
Yeah, that might have helped. I gave the car some stagger.
your left front was clearly about 90 degrees to where it normally runs, but with the suspension damage. But yeah, it was a great attempt at a comeback there.
Yeah, so I was about 20 seconds down, and then it was about 8, I think, at the end. So I mean, we were making some gains.
Definitely. You had fastest lap. pretty much all through it.
Yeah.
What did you feel about the draft? Was the draft a factor?
No, I don't think so. Not at
No,
all.
no
It's
draft.
really tough to pass.
Yeah,
So, when you caught a car, if they were letting you by, that was one thing. But if they weren't, I found if you just kind of dove under them and kind of watched up a little bit in the middle, you could get through, and then still have the exit. Where if you didn't aggressively go in there, you were going to be side by side for a few corners. So,
yep.
really being decisive on the entry was how you had to get the pass done. I felt, and get it done quickly.
Yeah, agreed. Get turned in early and get as much power out of the corner as you could.
Well, passing it off to you, Jeff. Excellent race from you tonight. I got the championship standings up, and you're currently out on top with 124 points. So congratulations for being up on top there. But that means everybody else below you is going to be gunning for you at the next race. But again, you had a strong qualifying position here. We're watching you here on the outside of the pole position, start of the race. And then you also got caught up, I think, in the same incident that Steve did and fought your way back up here. How was your race here this evening? How'd you find it at Thompson?
Well, it had its ups and downs. As you mentioned, got caught up in that mess with Steve. I guess first off, I want to say an apology to Stefan. I was coming up on him in the later stage of the race, and I did exactly what Steve was talking about. And what you needed to do is kind of do almost a mini slide job going into the turn. And so I dove into 3 and came up to, about mid track, which is not, if I'm running my normal line, I'm going to be outside of that. So like I felt like that I left the racing room on the outside considering the pass, but I kind of caught his left front with my right rear, and it seemed like he was okay for a bit, but then he went into the pit, so maybe he got some damage or something from it, that caused him to have to make a pit. But so that was unfortunate, but it's tough racing these little short tracks like this. And yeah, I almost made it through the incident with Steve. Unfortunately, my third wheel that was missing was one of the drive wheels, so I struggled to get back to the pits and lost a lot more time than Steve did in that situation. So that hurt big time. I'm looking at my pit stop. I literally was 10 seconds more, maybe, and that doesn't even count when I was on track trying to get to pit lane. So probably another 20 seconds back that I lost in the incident. But it was pretty fun while it lasted. I knew the car would hold the pace for the whole distance, so I was just trying to pressure Steve and see if I could make some opportunities in traffic, and just the luck didn't fall our way tonight.
Well, it was a lot of fun for Mac and I sitting up here watching you fight back through the pack. Of course, you hate to see it happen, but it does make for some exciting racing as you're fighting your way back up through, particularly on a short course like this. So certainly thanks for sticking with it and giving it a good shot there. Now, race chairman Jim Carramanis, not quite as successful of an evening for you here, but I'm going to guess you still had fun. And obviously, I think you had a little something up your sleeve when you said, let's take the Ford GT to Thompson. Not only because we race there in the real world, but also just to run them on a half-mile oval here. Did you enjoy yourself out there, Jim?
Oh, it was super fun. So my first lap here was about 65 minutes ago. So my whole goal tonight was to, 1, not take anyone out, and 2, not come in last place. So I succeeded in both those. Someone took my rear wing off. I don't know if it was Wiley or it was Clark, but I wanted to thank them because I ran my fastest lap time without the rear wing. So thanks whoever did that. Yeah, I really wanted to throw a curveball in here. I mean, we try to mimic the VRG real world as closely as we can, and of course, Thompson is one of our tracks that we race at in the real world. And unfortunately, iRacing hasn't yet turned it into a road course. We really wish they would. It would be a regular stop on the VRL circuit, but I really wanted to have a stop at Thompson in an homage to the real world, and it was super fun. I mean, I don't think I've ever done a full circle track race before, except for when we've done a little fun exhibition on the side. So that was great, super fun. Congrats to the people up front. Did my best to keep out of your way. Look forward to being on track with you guys again next week when we turn both directions.
and the iRacing stewards were paying attention there when you figured out a way around the fixed setup and reduced your drag there. So you might be hearing from the stewards after this one, Jim. But either way, thanks for putting this on the schedule. It was a lot of fun to sit up here in the booth and watch everybody go roundy round for 30 minutes. Congratulations to everybody here this evening. Mac, you have any closing thoughts before we wrap up? Unless Mac is no longer there and perhaps has gone for a beverage. Well, on that note, in case Mac doesn't come back, we'll wrap up here. Excellent drives here this evening, Dave. Congratulations again on your win, Wiley and Steve, for making an exciting podium for us. And generally an all-around exciting race here at Thompson. And looking forward to seeing you next week at Lime Rock. Should be a good time.
Thanks, guys.
It's going to be another good week. Thanks, guys.
I expect so. All right, everybody, take care, and thanks again for racing with us. And I'm going to wrap up on the other side. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, you too.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that'll do it for us here in the broadcast booth, the VRG VRL. This is Ian Wisman. I was joined by Mac McCormick there, providing some color commentary and some side-by-side commentary. We're going to see you next Tuesday night, Lime Rock Park Historics, starting at 8 p.m. on YouTube and Facebook. Hit the like, hit the subscribe, find out when we're going live. We're going to do it all again. The Ford GT at Lime Rock Park. Another short course, but this one's a road course. Equally quick laps, so not a whole lot of time to think about it. Just keep that pedal down and keep going around. We thank you for joining us. If you'd like to get in touch, stop by the VRG's website, vrgonline.org, hit the contact button, and come join us and go racing with us at the VRG VRL. This is Ian Wisman for Mac McCormick, signing off this evening. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. We'll see you next week.